There are people in Nigeria today that believe they are solely above the law and the judiciary doesn't apply to them. President Tinubu is one of them.
Do you think we have resources to take care of our country?
Yes, we have resources if we allocate them properly.
Thank you very much. The idea is that there's a crazy uneven distribution of that resource.
All right, let's talk about the Lekki toolkit then.
Number one, it didn't happen under this administration. I can assure you that for any judge that has been found wanting, he will be removed.
If you look at how the standard of living of an average Nigerian should cost, 70,000 naira is actually just like 10% of that.
This minimum wage was the best that government could do at that time, considering the circumstances.
That does not match the level of inflation that Nigeria has had to go through.
It has improved.
I don't think it has.
No. Are you a civil servant?
I'm not a civil servant.
If you have efficient health services and other infrastructure, there will be less burden on that salary. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. So, in reference to our topic, I don't know whether we have law students here or we have people that have worked with lawyers. So, there was this clamor, in fact, that it was a big clamor then that the salaries that our judges are earning was so bad or so ridiculous. I think there was even a publication that the Chief Justice of Nigeria then was earning less than 1 million naira. So, it's on this backdrop that the federal government decided to increase the salaries of judges across board. It was a 300% increase. And when I say across board, it means all federal judges, Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, and all judges at the federal court. And it is a good one. They now earn far, far better than what they were earning before, considering the inflation and how prices of things have skyrocketed. So again, we see that there's always that issue that judges are taking bribes, they're under pressure, they're under financial pressure, and this encourages them to take bribes. So this decision was like something that would come and, even though it will not solve that problem immediately or completely, but if you're earning what they are earning now, and with other allowances and infrastructure and other benefits that they get, then you don't have any reason to take bribes or be corrupt. So that's it.
Yikes. Sorry. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you.
Coming. So I think that it's important for you to compensate people. So if they are doing more work, they are under more pressure, yeah, you can compensate that. But saying that increasing their salary is to remove corruption is totally not strategic, and it has counter effects. So what you do is that, because corruption is not just about the money they collect, it's about the system itself. So what you do inherently is that you just increase the price of their bribe. So these individuals are going to be, maybe they are subjective to collecting 1 million naira bribe before, but because they are collecting 5 million naira now, you cannot bribe them 1 million naira anymore. The system still provides opportunities. It's not transparent. It's not accountable. There is no punishment for corruption. There is no actual implementation of things that hold them accountable. So that means that there's nothing stopping them. You increase their salary, it's more benefit for them. They're only going to have to increase their money or bribe. What do you think about that?
So if you say there is no punishments or sanctions for crime, do you have the data for that, or you just assume it, or you just...
So the fact that there is a constitution that says there's a punishment doesn't mean that there's an actual implementation.
No, hold on. There's a body that regulates judges.
How efficient
in Nigeria, the National Judicial Council.
How efficient is it?
No. So you need to look at data on a regular basis. I think it's a 3-month basis. In fact, if you read the news 2-3 weeks ago, you will see a number of judges that were sanctioned. Some were there. This popular judge of federal court at Abuja, trying to remember his name now. Of course, he was notorious for some curious other judgment, and it was dismissed. It's a regular thing. So if you don't know about it, it's different from saying it doesn't exist.
No,
it exists on a regular basis.
Implementation of it.
Yes,
if it was efficient enough, if accountability was efficient, you don't have to increase the salary. I mean, they will know that there is proportion for the action.
So beyond corruption, increasing the salary is also for them to earn a living wage.
Beautiful, and that's exactly what I said. Yes. That compensation for their work is good. Yes. But saying it is to remove corruption.
But you know that we are all human beings. We all have human blood running in us. Beautiful. You know, it's more tempting for someone that is not earning enough.
Beautiful.
So even go and look out for that corruption.
You give a child that steals chocolates more chocolates, or you question them. You treat a child.
When we say increasing their wages tries to limit corruption, it doesn't mean that the ones that are corrupt already will not be removed or will not be sanctioned. We are talking about
making an attempt.
not making an attempt. You are talking about, yes, we know that we have bad eggs in the judiciary, and we also know that majority of them are good people. So we are talking about, okay, even compensate the ones that you believe are good.
We are compensating everybody. Not
Yes.
just
No. So for any, I can assure you that for any judge that has been found wanting, he will be removed, depending on the gravity of the offense, whether removed, suspended, or dismissed.
So let's talk about the implication for the citizens.
Yeah.
So when you make a policy, it's not just, you don't just do it. You have to consider how the individuals respond to it. There are people who spend several days in courts, and like there's thousands of backlogs of cases in courts. You are spending 5 billion naira to increase the salaries of judges, but you are not building infrastructures that allow people to go to cases.
Okay, so I'll also address that. So maybe that topic should have included this. So in addition to increasing the allowances of judges, what the federal government has also done, for the first time in recent history, the Supreme Court has its full quota. Number one, by the Constitution, by the 1999 Constitution as amended, Supreme Court has 21 justices. But in the last 10, 20 years, there has hardly been a time where they will have up to 18. For there was a time it came as low as 10, 11.
Exactly.
So now they have the full quota, which it might be a drop in the ocean, but no matter how you want to look at it, it's going to address
So what do you
that
think?
length of
What do
time.
you think about diverting? What
It
do you think about
also
diverting?
trickles down because it's not every litigant that will get to the Supreme Court. So it also trickles down. We have the Court of Appeal,
Exactly.
we have the High Court, and we have the Magistrate Court. So all these reforms, so it's not just about salary. All these reforms also trickle down. So we have, and looking at state government, because state governments have to be involved too. It's not just everything is federal government. We are all in Lagos. We know the strides that Lagos has taken.
What do you think about diverting the 5 billion naira increase in bump of the judicial officials to actual these reforms they are talking about? So why not increase it? You said it's a drop in the notion. Why don't you make it bigger?
So what I said is a drop in the ocean is the number of justices.
Exactly. So
Number of Supreme Court justices. And like I've said, not every case will get to this. I can bet that many cases will not get to the Supreme Court from masses. But the fact that they have spent 5 billion naira on that aspect does not mean they will not spend money on other aspects. And they have been doing that. And we are seeing reforms in those areas.
Thank you very much. There are people in Nigeria today that believe they are solely above the law and the judiciary doesn't apply to them. President Tinubu is one of them. The judiciary doesn't apply to him. The past president was the same thing. The judiciary has been
specific
unfair
examples of that.
because, number one, the case with the Lekki toll gate and the NSAS movement has been left unanswered till today, with the presidency claiming that nothing happened till today after a panel of inquiry in Lagos State ascertained together with the Ministry of Defense that something actually happened. And till today, no one, and I mentioned no one has been persecuted, but that's with that. The sitting Senate president, Godswill Akpabio, resigned from his position to contest in presidency of 2024 or 2023 that Tinubu did. And he came back even after he did not win the primary to rerun for the Senate president. But because the judiciary doesn't apply to him, the court waived in his favor. Dele Fraotimi, a lawyer, was taken from Lagos State to Ekiti to be jailed for a petition that was written in Lagos State, arrested by Lagos State police, and sent to Ekiti to be persecuted and stayed in the correctional facility for days without being answered to. I think it's a sham to say that the judiciary's solution will be to give them more money.
These three examples you have made, so I'll not put myself out as defending these particular individuals. But these three examples you have made, I think some of them are not too factual. So let's start from the last one, the third one. For Dele Fraotimi, the petition was not arrested by Lagos policemen.
He was arrested by Lagos police.
No, it was arrested by Ekiti policemen.
If he was arrested by Ekiti police, then it means that was criminal things to do.
Hold on.
Because Ekiti police does not have jurisdiction to come and arrest for a petition that was written in Lagos State.
Hold on.
Okay.
The petition was not written in Lagos State.
It was written in Lagos State. Okay.
The petition was written to the Commissioner of Police in Ekiti State.
Okay.
The police that came to arrest him came from Ekiti State. Okay. Normally, by their protocol, it's one police force.
Okay.
But by their protocol, when they get to Lagos, they do all the necessary approvals, requirements. They have to notify the Lagos command.
Okay.
So sometimes, possibly, an officer from the Lagos command will go there. So that's what happened in that case. Okay. So there is no. That is the fact.
Do you think it was lawful to have transported him from Lagos to Ekiti to be persecuted there? If it is going to be the central state, why wasn't it transported to Abuja?
So let me tell you this, and I'm not holding a brief for any of the parties in that dispute. Okay. That's not even a government dispute. Okay. It's a dispute between two individuals, one individual
I agree with
alleged
that.
that has some criminal.
Yes.
So for crimes, let's even use some serious crimes. If somebody is an armed robber and commits an offense in Lagos and runs to Ekiti, they can go and pick him up there and bring him there. So that does not breach any law once it is done by due process.
Was the crime committed in Ekiti or committed in Lagos?
So now, the man that alleged
Okay.
that there was a crime is based in Ekiti.
Okay.
He said somebody wrote a book and there were defamatory words in their book.
Yes.
The book was nationwide, online.
Yes.
It was everywhere.
Yes.
So even you can say, you can prosecute him in Kano. You can prosecute. So it would have been anywhere.
No,
For
that's
that.
very
But
wrong.
because the man is
You
in...
don't have any statement to back that up.
No, I'm telling you the fact.
No,
So
it's not fact.
I'm not trying to be sentimental here or take sides, but I'm telling
No,
you
the
what
truth- the
would have.
truth is that
I'm
he
telling you what
cannot
would have applied.
anyway.
Hold on. I'm telling you what would have applied if
Okay.
it was any other case. I'm not focused on this particular. So if somebody is alleged to have committed criminal defamation online, so online would have spread all over the world, anywhere in Nigeria. So that's the point I was trying to put across.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean that because that man say, if it's a civil action now, the law is very clear where the defendant resides. But this is a criminal action, alleged criminal action.
Okay. So are you saying that it was lawful to have transported him to Ekiti to prosecute him there?
So, and I've given you that example that if a crime is alleged to have committed somewhere,
Okay.
and the person escapes to another place,
Okay.
it's lawful if due process is followed
Okay.
to go and bring him from where he is and bring him there.
All right, let's talk about the Lekki toolkit then.
So like it told again, number one, it didn't happen under this administration.
Okay.
It happened under the previous administration. So what exactly is your question there?
So my question is that, do you believe that the solution to what has happened in that past administration that you claim is to increase the fee of judicial workers?
And so how do you relate it to Lekki Gate?
So the point is that if some certain individuals can feel that they are above the law and can do whatever they feel like, and the judiciary does not apply to them, it means that intrinsically
So
the
for-
system is the problem.
For
Right?
Lekki Gate,
The thing is.
Hold on.
No, let me explain it.
So good afternoon, sir. First we have to realize that corruption is a system. So when you have corrupt judges, you are increasing their wages to try and curb corruption is nothing other than state-sponsored, bribe inflation. So let me remind you that corruption is a
will
system.
you apply the same reasoning to the increase in minimum wage?
In the increase,
Will you apply the same reasoning?
the increase in minimum wage is a different thing entirely
How?
because it affects every federal worker. But trying to say, and it has nothing to do with
That is true,
corruption,
our worker.
it has to do with their way of life. The fact that they cannot afford basic things, so you consider them and say, okay, let's increase their wages. But the fact that you see judges that are corrupt and you want to address their corruption, let's not forget that corruption is due to the love of money.
If you say you see judges that are corrupt, can you defend that statement?
Let me put it this way.
Do you know any judge that is corrupt?
Let me put it this way. In 2005,
Yes.
Yaradua, I think he introduced this act that
2005.
was it 2005? I think that quadrupled or doubled the salaries of judicial workers because of corruption charges, and they claimed that they were not getting paid enough. So how did that help? Let me tell you how it helped. A judge that was earning about 9 million naira per month in 2022
There's no judge.
was arrested.
There's no judge earning that amount.
Was arrested for a 500 million naira bribe, collecting a 500 million naira bribe. And this was after Yaradua's Reform Act. So it shows that it's, in fact, I don't know how to put it. Corruption is such that if you were earning 200,000 naira and you were collecting 1 million naira, when you are now being paid 1 million naira, you might start charging 500 million naira. And let's know, as I said at the beginning, corruption is a system. You have not just judicial corruption, rather, is a system. You have not just the judges collecting money. You have people like the registrars, the clerks, even the policemen, plaintiffs, even the lawyers. They have.
The citizens like you and me.
I'm referring to courtroom and everything.
So I'm talking about corruption. Corruption in judiciary means that a party to a hold on now. Corruption in judiciary means that a party to a case. There are two parties to a case. One of the parties who is a Nigerian citizen like you and me wants judgment to be given in his favor, and he starts the process whether through his lawyer or through anybody to go and approach the judge. So let's take everybody into
When I say judicial corruption,
Yes.
I mean those working in the judiciary, not only as judges, but those who work in judicial settings, you get. So what I am saying essentially is that you do not address people collecting money as in the form of bribery. You do not address it by increasing their base salaries, making them have more, demand for more money. Now, let me give an example. Sorry, let me give an example. Even in Kenya, they increased the prices of their judges' salaries. Until today, they still have many corrupt judges. But let's look at what Georgia did. I think it was 2004 that Georgia, I think they go. Oh shit!
I think you are starting from the basis that all judges are corrupt.
It's nice, I promise. 70,000 naira minimum wage is fair. Anything higher would cripple the Nigerian economy. 70,000 naira minimum wage is fair. Anything higher would cripple the Nigerian economy. Please.
So again, on this question, we need to start from where we are coming from. We are coming from 30,000 naira or 33,000 naira, which was very ridiculous. Was a national shame, and this government thought that should be addressed immediately, and they did that. There were a lot of conversations, negotiations here and there. It took a while, and considering the government considered its resources and felt that 7,000 naira at this time is something that is reasonable to increase what was in existence before, and to also not go overboard so that we won't have instances of delayed salaries or even salaries not being paid. And even at that 70,000 naira, you can see that some states were initially struggling with that. Although as we speak, I don't think any state can claim to be struggling with that. So I think it was a fair amount, at least for now. We don't know what will happen in the future, whether they need to go and again in the future. For now, it's a fair amount. It balances both sides, both those that will receive it and those that will pay it.
All right. When the presidency came in, one of the first things he did was to remove the fuel subsidy, which saw a great increase in inflation, the affordance of like basic stuff like even.
So I don't need to correct another factual facts about that. The government, so Tinubu will have said that on that day that it was, but if you look at it, first subsidy was no longer in the budget. By the previous administration, they removed this from the budget. So even if Tinubu had said it should continue, there was no way it could have continued.
Okay, I'm going to address about that. All right. So one of the first things that came with Tinubu's administration, you would agree, was the removal of fuel subsidy, right? So even if it was a budget approved on that previous administration, it was implemented straight as Tinubu resumed. And one, there was no preparation for citizens to cater for themselves in the instance of that great difference in what is a necessity for survival. You would agree that fuel is something that we need for the most basic things, even for businesses to function, for schools, for survival, right? One. But then this also translated to the fact that things like food, things that people need to eat became almost unaffordable for people. Why do I have to bring this before I go to your major claim? 77,000 is literally just double and some of the formal minimum wage. That does not match the level of inflation that Nigeria has had to go through after the removal of the fuel subsidy, which means that 77,000 is quite literally smaller than what 33,000 was at the time before Tinubu entered. So how exactly is it a succor for Nigerian citizens? How does it solve our problem? I think that if people in your economy cannot even afford the basics with the minimum wage, then the economy is already crippled.
Okay, so the claim is not that this new minimum wage, 70,000 has solved all the problems. That was not the claim. The claim is that this minimum wage was the best that government could do at that time, considering the circumstances. And when we make these arguments, when we make these solutions, we should try and be very holistic about it. So when you say somebody is now earning 70,000, you need to take note of some other things, allowance, health. I'm sure civil servants have HMOs. They have other allowances that they get, leave allowances, and so many other allowances. So when you say 70,000, it's not just as if they are any 70,000, and that 70,000 is even the minimum. I'm sure even the least staff, least civil servant that earns more, that earns the least, will earn more than that. So the claim is not that the money will solve all the problems, but it's a start, it's a good start.
Okay, so the 70,000 naira minimum wage, 77,000 naira minimum wage is actually ridiculous. And that is because if you look at the standard of living of how the standard of living of an average Nigerian should cost. 70,000 naira is actually just like 10% of that. And let's not forget that Nigeria is a country that has access to like many ways to generate revenue. But let me tell you the actual things that cripple the Nigerian economy. The actual things that cripple the Nigerian economy are one, corruption. For example, the EFCC has said that was it over 15 trillion naira has been lost to GRA, like, and all this corruption. Let's not also forget about governors' misuse of funds, buying luxury vehicles and so. Let's not also forget about banditry, because we are a food producing nation. Before we discovered oil in Bayelsa, that was our main revenue generator, and that was agriculture. And let's look at Benue State, for example, the food basket of the nation, which is plagued by herdsmen attacks and things like that. So I think those are actually the things that cripple our economy. The fact that we cannot control them. So saying that you cannot make your average government paid citizen to live his life in a standard comfortable way. The fact that you are saying that you cannot make him live better is fair, and you are now saying that increasing his wage will cripple your economy shows that as a government you have failed in your promise, because the main job of the government is safeguarding the lives and property of citizens, and citizens are unsafe when they go to the farms to produce food for the nation. So let's talk about how that affects our economy. And these are things we actually need to solve before we start looking at solving our salary cuts and things like that.
So thank you. So many of these problems that you have listed they are fact, they are reality. Nobody will deny it. Even the president will not deny it. And we have to agree that no matter how we want to look at it, government is working on these areas. So the results might not be visible now. These are problems that have existed for years, for decades. But I can assure you, because sometimes we think government is not doing anything. But if government disappears today, if there is no police, there is no military today, then everything will result in chaos. At least a large part of the country is safe. And so we are hopeful that things will get better.
But I don't understand what you specifically mean by when they say any higher than 70K will have people economy.
So looking at where we are coming from, I was listening to the conversation earlier with the first debater. Looking at where we are coming from, before 2023, so many states were struggling to pay salaries. So many states were in debt, we were borrowing either from the government or even outside the loan, the federal government to bank, serve as guarantee. So if you are looking at that, and now because you now need to increase the salary, you take it to a point where it will no longer be possible. So when we say we look at all the realities, well, it's not just federal governments, civil servants that are going to be paid that amount. Right. And we know how long it took some state government to adjust. Some of them went over 70, but most of them did not
think the problem, the actual thing that you have a problem with is diminishing marginal returns for certain people, which are obviously the people in power that earn a ridiculous amount of money, employ aides on the same amount of money. It's not the problem of the minimum wage, which will increase the purchasing power of people if it goes higher, and then that you create demand within the economy. So I think that the flip of what your understanding of raising higher is that obviously that means that you have to raise the salaries of people who don't deserve to get that salary. And the problem is that we think or conceptualize public service to be a job, and we pay people a ridiculous amount of money.
So I want to agree with you when you say some people earn ridiculous amounts, which is also a reality. But let us even be realistic about this thing. So let us even look at the numbers. Yes, agreed. There's corruption, people high earn so much and so much. But how many, what's the numbers? How many of them?
Yeah,
If you put all of them together and even take all that amounts from them that they earn, it doesn't even cover,
the thing is
it
that
doesn't even cover the
the
salaries.
thing is that people are going to demand for basic necessities anyway. The problem with the economy is when people have extra money to pay for extra of those basic necessities. The poor is not going to want to buy a car if they earn above 77k. They are going to want to purchase other commodities that they can't afford. So I don't see why that will cripple the economy. Maybe because some states can't pay. But that's not because they don't have the money to pay. That's because they
Even federal government, at the time before this administration, federal government was even struggling to pay. Federal government was,
Yeah, but
and so when you look at this particular point, you have to look at it.
I don't think the private sector.
You have to compare it with the other
Private sector. I think people will need
So now, what was taking the highest volume of revenue of federal government before this? You look at fuel subsidy. You look at the backing, defending the dollar so that you can keep the.
I don't think that we are.
Hold on.
I think we're deflecting from.
No, we are not. So if you look at all these things that we're taking so much of the money, we are borrowing to pay subsidy.
But this should prove that we should pay more than 70k.
No.
And 70k will not reach your
So like I said, I'm sure we'll get there. But for now, looking at all these circumstances, this is what the government feels is the best they can do. And I'm sure it has, no matter how little, it has improved.
I don't think it has.
No. Are you a civil servant?
I'm not the civil servant.
Do you know the civil servant?
I mean, compassion, it has not improved my quality.
How much earning now?
7 boys.
How much are you earning before?
33. What's the difference?
Times 2. What are the increase in salary?
That's me back. So I think that it should not clear on what not also like, so how does the increase in 70k improve the economy? I think the response we gave is that it increases the bureaucratic process. So if it increases the bureaucratic, okay, the state government took a long time before they implemented the 70k. That's not the problem. The problem of the management of the administration of the implementation of the policy, not the policy itself.
No. My answer was, what's the revenue of the government?
Okay.
So it's the revenue of the government that determines how much they can afford to pay.
Okay, good. So that's the thing. I feel like we are being really, really far from reality. And I think that's the same thing with previous speaker. They speak as if we're not close to the interview or not seeing what's happening. I think the real example is about people spending serious amount of money, doing a lot of crazy expenses, several things, mismanagement of funds. The idea here is like resources and funds exist. That's not disputed. Nigeria has, I think somebody already established that we have the highest.
So where do you think this revenue is? Where do you think they come from? Let's look at
where you come from doesn't matter.
Let's look at it now. So if you say it exists, and government is
The
saying
revenue
it's not in that
does the revenue exist? You think that Nigeria is the highest producing country of fuel in Africa? You think that Nigeria has the highest GPR in Africa?
No.
You don't think so?
So the data is there. We don't.
Okay, comparatively,
You have South Africa.
this comparatively alone, do you think we have resources to take care of our country?
Yes, we have resources.
We have the
If you allocate them properly.
Thank you very much. If we allocate the resources properly,
Yes.
the idea is that there's a crazy uneven distribution of the resources.
So now, what we have been doing now for so many years is this fuel subsidy. Like everybody has acknowledged.
Gone.
That is
We
gone
have
now.
more revenue.
That is gone for the past 2 years now.
Thank you.
But we are not going to get to that magical state in 2 years or in 3 years. We are going to get there. So the earlier speaker has also spoken about tax. This is what people were arguing about.
Thank you. We have taxes.
We have the reality of how many people pay taxes in this country.
That's it.
But not so many people. But that's where the revenue will come from.
That's it. The point
That's where the revenue will come from.
I agree right now that there is revenue and there is money.
We have sources from where the revenue will come from.
Thank you. But we are not managing it properly. So that's why
Like doing the fuel subsidy now is misallocation of revenue.
That's
which has been corrected.
So I think that the problem that we need to solve is not that we need to reduce the minimum wage. The problem we need to solve is that we need to solve the problem. Not reducing the minimum wage. Like it's the amount of wage that we minimum wage. The problem we need to solve is not that. The problem we need to solve is how do we make sure that the money we are supposed to get, we are actually getting it. So we can transfer the money back to people. So if we say that it's going to cripple the economy, we shy away from the original problem. We shy away because the original problem is not that 70k will cripple the economy. The problem is that maybe we're not getting the resources correctly, right? So instead of focusing on that problem, we say, 70k is going to cripple the economy, so let's not increase it. Then people are talking with the fact that 70k is all desired.
So I think you are looking at it Yeah, you should not focus only on that 70K
Okay.
as the only problem that exists. The other problem that also require allocation of resources.
Time.
So when we say to cripple the economy, it's because we need to allocate those scarce resources to different areas.
Okay, so I just have a simple question for you. I need to get the clarity. What exactly is going to be the when you put in salaries? Because if you watch
So if you don't have the funds to pay, if everybody wants for the same time, if everybody wants the minimum wage to be 1 million naira now, the government does not have that fund to pay that 1 million naira, then wouldn't that be keeping the economy?
why does the government not place the burden on forest workers? Why don't they use their own salary to
So like I've said, even if you look at these salaries that you think they're earning or these allocations that they're earning, if you see it as a large amount, if you now break it down and look at the number of civil servants we have, it's not going to cover it. That was the factual.
Other African countries like Ghana, they have like limited resources, and Nigeria has.
All these African countries we are talking about, do you have the data? Are you sure of what you're saying? You have the. I have friends in Ghana, they know what they're doing. Even this electricity you think they have. That's not correct. They take their right there.
Yeah.
So even Kenya, go to Kenya. Everybody say Kenya or Rwanda. Go to there. It's not rule there.
Okay, why do you think that? Because people within like African countries like Nigeria, most of them don't have enough money to cater for themselves. Why see increasing their salary? Because, for example, people that actually work in all those government sector that don't earn up to like 50,000, most of them don't have like enough money to buy food stuff and stuff like that. So why do you think that increasing the wages of these poor people is not justified? Why do you think it's a problem?
So I've not said it is not justified. I've said that amount is the best government said in another time. But if you look at governance, if you look at our country, I don't think everything should just be about salaries. If you have good infrastructure, if you have good road network, if you have good health services, efficient health services, another infrastructure, there will be less burden on that salary. If people can afford, can get health services that is not too expensive, then there will be reduction in that on the budget on that salary. Then things can get better.
All right, time. And that's that for this claim. So floating the naira was a necessary sacrifice and it's already floating the economy.
So I don't think many people can argue against this. It was something that needed to be done. And I'll give you an example. What people were doing there, and I had friends that were doing it. Yeah. What people were doing there was, some people want to import, they go and get dollars from the bank at official rates from CBN. Some people want to travel, they go and get traveling allowance, BTA, $4,000. And what do? They go and sell it at the black market and use the change to do what that. I have friends, very close friends, and they're doing it. Because I had someone that was, now if I say that, I'm sure if he looks at this, if he watches this, he will not be referring to him. But I have people that made that offer, that go and buy a ticket, give you BTA, then they. So it was very important that government put a stop to that. Very important.
Yeah, and ability to like floating, specifically how the government is implemented.
So what existed was that because for some reasons government wanted to bring the exchange rates down because people import, people go and school outside, they pay dollars. Government was putting the rates down. Government was backing it. Government was spending money to do this. It's sort of where our revenues were going. Government was spending money to keep the dollar at maybe 400 naira to a naira. A lot of revenue was going there. People were taking advantage of it. You know, Nigerians, we have these tendencies to take advantage of loopholes and weaknesses in the system. So people were going to the bank, getting that money at that exchange rate and coming outside because the black market rate was much more higher. People go to the bank, get that amount, and so it was like government was funding our lifestyles. Those that were doing it, funding their lifestyles, and it was not sustainable. There was no way it would have gone. If it had gone on till now, then there would have been issues. Because clearly our revenues, we are all doing this from the money we earned from food oil. And the revenues were not there again.
Okay, there are problems with, there are consequences with tampering with the existing system because the way also investors come to expect the system that exists, that the government interference that you have is reasonable for them to be able to invest in the market. Like the fact that you
So in fact, keeping it at that rate, official rate is even government interference.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like that, my friend. It doesn't happen in other countries. Nobody fixes
It
it.
does. China fixes its rate.
China's rate is fixed. China, they have their own reasons for doing
China's
that.
rate is fixed.
And they can afford it.
Second largest economy in the
And
world.
you said they're second largest. They can afford it.
They're second largest.
So when people say Saudi Arabia and Qatar are doing these
Based
things,
on colonialism or oil,
yes.
China.
So some of these countries, when you look at them, I think I was listening to the earlier debate and people are saying Saudi Arabia, Qatar, they have welfare program. They can afford it because their ratio of the people to what they earn is good for them.
I think that we are like with the China example, we are just as
They're not China.
like with the China example, because China actually does.
They're not China.
Yeah, we're
How many other
not
countries like it?
We're not China, but like,
Does the UK do it?
country like China fixes its rate. I'm coming to that. I thought about the UK. There are reasons why certain countries cannot do it because that's what people come to expect in the economy. I don't think we have to adopt different systems in the UK or in the US because that's what works for them. So I think,
But the reason is that we cannot even afford it again.
it's a speculative to say that we can't afford it because the problem here is that we start floating the naira. But how's the it's improved? How is it improved? How is it improved? How is it improved? You say that we have to allocate the resources that the exchange rate is better. So it's like worse actually. $1 was 800 naira when Tinubu became president. That was the highest in the black market.
It was 800 naira because it was fixed at that amount.
Now it's 1.5.
And money was being used to fix it at that amount.
That's over 1.5, isn't it?
No.
Bro, I think that for something. The 800 was back cheap as well.
Yeah, it's 800 was for something.
So you know we have commoditized the naira. It's become like a service.
But yes,
So it's subject to the law of demand and supply.
The problem with living in the ways of the free markets then is that it's sort of easier for people to exploit it in ways that governments do not expect, in ways that investors as well do not expect.
So but even when the government was trying to regulate, it was being exploited.
Yeah, but like maybe government was doing a bad job at it. Not because
So give us an idea. What would you advise? How would you advise that it should be different?
So people from doing BDCs like that, I think that's much more faster. Like there's reasons for why government allows BDCs to exist because people use it to launder money because it can't go to banks. So it's a political reason for why those BDCs exist. You can't remove them.
That's speculation. That's speculation.
Time, please.
Next, please.
Sorry. Do you say I have to argue against?
Actually, just like go first. Someone else.
Okay, please.
Sorry, I'll put
Thank you. Scarcity breeds value. Yeah. The reason why the US dollar is higher and has so much value is because it is one of the globally accepted currencies for trading, right? Naira currently is not scarce. We have a lot in the system, which is why we can never have a change in value compared to the US dollar. Do you think that floating the naira itself, because you talked about the demand and supply, and that was that point. Do you think that floating the dollar floating the naira, creates that value that can help the currency grow?
So I think I'll give you the exact reason of this problem.
Okay.
The major reason is because we're not producing enough. We're not earning. So the dollar is a global currency. Nobody can deny that. And it's the most valued currency. So even if you have a naira and you want to trade with foreign partners, you still have to use the dollar. Even China, they are trying to use their money, but it's still more of the dollar. So the major problem we have as a country is because we're not producing enough. We export raw materials. Even that is not even enough. We don't export refined goods. So we're not earning that dollars. We're not earning that foreign exchange. That is the major problem that we have.
Okay.
And government needs to address that problem.
I agree that that's the problem. It's export and import. It also breeds value. But in 2023, the governor of central bank said that we have so much liquid cash in the economy and we need to reduce it. Why? Because a lot of politicians withdraw large sum of cash and keep it in their houses because it is easy to be corrupt that way. It's easy to bribe other individuals that way. So they load so much cash, which devalues the naira that you want to gain. So do you think that more politicians now should also be prosecuted alongside with the floating? Or do you think that the floating itself is what that would bring change?
So I don't think those two scenarios are related. So even all these people we are talking about, if there is no cash, you can probably bribed. Can do transfers to them, you can give them things. So it's not connected. So I just think floating of that naira is one of the first steps to achieving whatever we want to achieve. So I think the solution to it is still that we need to start producing. I mean, we need to start refining our raw materials here. China will come in and import all our woods. They take it there and do things for us and come and sell it to us. We need those are the things that we need, the government needs to do. And I'm sure government are looking into those areas.
Okay, so if you say the government needs to do that, you also say that floating naira is good. Don't you think that they should come hand in hand? But they are not.
So
We have only one part.
there are steps, there are stages of addressing problems.
Examples of
The first step, which was even more imminent, was necessarily more by the fact that government cannot even afford to do it again. It's like you don't understand that government is using money to keep this rate fixed.
I really done with the
No,
thing.
that is-
Alright, sorry. There was
Thank you.
yeah, some resources. So I think my only grounds with the floating, I mostly support the idea, to be honest. But I just think that the floating leads to a situation where you can predict the exchange rate. Right? The floating leads to the cost of demand and supply. So if demand for naira goes up, the value of naira goes up. If demand for dollar goes up, the value of naira goes down. Right? So what that means is because when an economy, one of the big drivers in economic growth is how much investor money you're able to get, external investor money you're able to get. So if you have an economy where investors cannot predict that the dollars that they bring in to invest in the country would retain its value to a reasonable degree, then you're going to have people who are less incentivized to bring money to the country. So if I bring $1 billion to Nigeria, for instance, right, and the exchange when I brought it in was 1.5. So that means $9 billion like 100 or 1.5 billion, right? I do business with this in the country and whatnot. By the time I want to extract my money back, the exchange has gone to like 2,000, right? And let's say the money that I made from my business, my 1.5 billion or 1.8 billion. Well, now what you have is, well, now that they say it's now 2,000, that means your $1 million. That means 1.8 billion is not up to $1 million I invested. I don't know if you understand my mathematics. So having what's a fixed exchange rate does for the economy is that there is investor confidence in the economy that my dollar is going to take value. And when I'm cashing out, I'm going to have a profit. For if you have a floating currency, then there's no guarantee. But unless it's incentivize more to do business in Nigeria for an economy. So what do you think?
So let me start from first. In the past 1 year, I think it has been the exchange rate has been a bit stable. I don't think that's switched for 100 naira or so. So they will also look at what.
So I think as of last April, last year was 1.5, below 1.5. Then right now it's about 1.575. It has gone up to about 1.60 something. Yes.
So it's still
Earlier in the year. So about 150.
there was a time that it was more volatile than this. It was swinging fast.
Yeah, but once if you're officially you're bringing dollars into the country, you're exchanging with the banks, that one was always fixed. You understand? So that's what we're addressing.
So like I said, there is the solution to these things, which is not going to happen overnight. And one area where the government has tried and which will help with this stability is even before this administration, we had the problem of foreign airlines not being able to repatriate their funds.
Yes.
And from the data available now, government has cleared that debt. So that's a good one. And it's going to have a positive ripple effect. So it's a stage by stage thing. I'm sure we'll get there if we are on track with the reforms and everything, and we don't backtrack and things go as they should go. I'm sure we'll go to the area. It's not imminent now, but it's something that is doing.
Perfect. No problem. Thank you very much.
Anyone for the last 3 minutes?
Yeah, I think I'd like to talk back into
Alright, I think the already pointed out that with the foundation, you can not necessarily determine what's the rates going to be at different points in time. So we are letting this down to like more like SMEs in Nigeria, especially those ones that need to import stuff down to the country. Because of the lack of regulation price that's going to be very bad, it then makes it hard for them to like, really bring things into the country. For example, after the also say price of things still went up. But I think for example last year the dollar price now was like almost 1.8, going up to 1.8 first again. So these things have been affected like in imports of different things like leather or rubber suits and all these different things at the end of the day. So how do you like balance this via the regulation?
So well, I think what this should do for us, what this should help us to do is to activate our local resources. So this weather you're talking about now, we have it here. most times we export the raw materials, and these people go and refine it. So it's a gradual stage. We're not going to get there in 2 years, even in 4 years. But I'm sure that we'll get there. So if
The issue with this is that we basically have just one cannery in Nigeria.
one,
Cannery in Nigeria, in Kano State. Just one. We don't have more than that. So beyond just leather, like there are many, just for example, there are many other things that are being imported down into this country that we can have. Or okay, except from cannery, there are things like rubber tools that we don't necessarily have in the country. That percent. So if you want to make flotation in itself happen, I think there is a need to, like, before you do that, you need to make sure that this other manufacturing process already existing in the country before you just make like this things.
they're not going to happen overnight. That's the reality. They're not going to happen overnight.
But flotation happen like overnight.
So because the government can no longer sustain it.
What will they sustain?
So
Cannot sustain.
what we expect, if there was no money to do it, it's because you don't want to acknowledge that a lot of money was being spent to fix that rate. So because if you admit that a lot of money was being spent to fix that rate, then you will understand that if that money is no longer coming, then what do you do?
In all honesty, you know,
It's a false situation. It's a situation that government was forced to do.
floating this stuff does not necessarily mean that it's exactly the same rate to the black market. If you do it to be
Yeah, but the difference
that
is not.
difference is not much.
It's not much.
So it means that the floating itself is not as exact as the government would want it. Given that the government have not banned like friend platforms like Binance,
I know. So they have left it so that the only thing government has done is that they will not fix the CBN rate. They have left it open. And CBN has tried by making sure that the difference is not much, so that people will not take advantage. Because some people still go to CBN, go to the bank to get their own allocation of dollars. So you don't want those guys to get that allocation and come to the black market and sell it and make a profit.
well, yes, they will make that profit, but the other issue about manufacturing still affects their revenue. So that the rate of should I say not really poverty rates, but the rate of people not being able to do business with that foundation is affecting Nigeria.
Well, like the
Like giving that in Nigeria.
and the president has said, those are the short-term pains that we need to take. The Africa said something about Ajakuta steel. So now we know that we import a lot of our steel, our iron. So if that factory gets working, we're going to solve that problem. It is to cover all our needs. So if we can identify some of these things that government is doing already, now we'll solve all these problems. But it's not going to happen overnight.
All right, time.
It's not really short term.
It's friend with the definition of short term. It's less than 5 years or 10 years. That's short. Go fierce.
That concludes this round. Something like remark.
Yes. So what I would just like to say that it's not as if one is saying that government has done everything, or one is calling government 100 over 100. But what we're saying is that some of these reforms, some of these steps needed to have been taken. And we are seeing the efforts of government. They are on track. And we need to, they are paid. Even government officials are going through some of this space. Because we are all citizens, we are all Nigerians. For someone that has been buying fuel for 185 naira or 200 naira, and is now buying fuel for 900 naira, even if you're a billionaire, you are going to feel it. So, but we are hopeful that if government is sincere to its purpose and they keep track of this, then things will get better. So we are not expecting a situation, let us be realistic, we should not expect a situation where things will come back to normal. If anybody is expecting fuel to come back to 100 naira now or 180, it's not going to happen. But if we can balance all these things with infrastructure, health, water, electricity, and all that, and if you're talking about subsidy, there's some areas of the economy where we still enjoy subsidy. Education, we are still getting some form of subsidy in education. Even electricity, there's this argument about whether they should move. Government is still paying a lot for the electricity subsidy. So we need to balance all these things together and we're hopeful for the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So guys, look like feminist right now, having.
No bullshit.
Yes, because I'm not too much on my woman.
We have some things to say. Just listen to this one. I read the
We shall not too much on my woman.
interesting thing.